facilities that our kids are in are the oldest in the state, in the worst condition in the state.
There were insects, I remember. It was kind of falling apart.
Like it's hot in there now. They don't got no air conditioner on. You could just go to one and you'd be like, all right, yeah, this is a problem. Something should have been done about this a long time ago. And so it's not even that the schools, like somebody like, no, the school's good. We love the ceilings falling down, and we love the books. Right, we don't know water fountain. My great-great-grandmama used the same book. I love that. Like, no, nobody like that.
Where we're headed in terms of how teaching happens, the buildings currently are not conducive.
So the 10-year plan is Baltimore City Schools' commitment to make sure that in 10 years, every single child in this district, no matter what neighborhood you're from, gets a 21st century building.
The plan is to take this $1 billion, close a bunch of schools, knock down a bunch of schools, build some new schools, and renovate some schools.
It wasn't part of our plan to have schools close, but we did see it as an inevitable mandate, coming from the state, coming from the people with the money, with the power. Schools were assessed on utilization, so how much of the school was being used, the programming as far as like pass, fail, graduation rates, the quality of the building, so like if it had a good furnace, if it had heat.
Remember when they were built for a student population of 100,000, 120. At its peak, it was 150, which is, a lot of our buildings date back to then. So you had an inventory of buildings that was built for a population roughly twice what we are now. As a result, there's a lot of places, a lot of underutilization.
The classrooms are overpopulated, so I don't understand how they're not being used to capacity.
You can make data say what you want it to say almost sometimes. So it depends on who's looking at the numbers. We are stretched thin, so I don't think we are underutilized.
The schools are allocated money per pupil. So if you are losing students, you're not going to get as much money, which means you've got to take money from somewhere. That means most of the time, resource teachers are first to go. Art, gym, music. After that, then you're pushing more kids into a classroom.
Our budget has been cut and cut and cut and cut and cut and cut. And we have a number of people doing multiple jobs.
It ultimately affects the learning in the classroom.
I'm game for the problem of low numbers, but I think there are other ways we would figure this out if this were a wealthy white community. The economics of school closing is a complex question, and it depends on who's calculating. Are you going to talk about human costs? Are you going to talk about losing children who then don't show up anywhere else? Are you going to talk about transportation? Are you going to talk about the fact that you've got to keep those teachers, so now you're redistributing them? There's lots of evidence that kids lose academic achievement, that the year before the school closes, there's a washout because everybody's a mess and teachers are looking for jobs, that the summer before there's extraordinary summer loss, and that we lose kids, we lose bodies. They just don't go to the next school.
That is going to be a problem for my daughter and I, because we live right around the corner from the school. And my grandbaby, he just started here. So now I don't know what we're going to do if they close these schools.
I'll be hurtful to leave my best friend, her name Aja, and I'll be hurtful because we took time to talk to each other, to work things out, to play with each other and stuff, and I'm gonna miss that.
Feels like I'm closing the door on a chapter in my life.
I was disappointed, just disappointed and sad, because the students, the families in this community don't have many resources. And it's no recreation centers. You know, there have been generations of families that came through Rayner. It's a very small school, but very family oriented and support one another. So to take this away and to add to the other abandoned buildings in the community, it seemed like there would be another alternative before closing it down.
The local school, even when it is producing devastating outcomes for young people, is a local resource that needs to be strengthened and resurrected, not stolen from communities.
Personally, I went to a school and it closed when I was in like the 4th grade, and so then we had to go to like another school. But the thing about that is, like, when you take a whole group of people and put them in a different area, you don't really know how it's going to, you know, result in. I've been to 3 schools in about 4 years. And that's not cool at all.
Because it was like, this is our school, you don't belong here kind of thing. And I don't know everyone's experience. I know me and a few of my friends, like, sometimes we would get chased actually from school.
Some little children walk to school alone. That's not always a good thing. And parents don't always accompany the children. And the bigger children will be moving on to high school. So the children will be left to walk that distance alone. And they're not talking about any kind of commuting bus.
I just see, like, when I'm riding down St. Louis, people getting beat up in the middle of the street.
It wasn't far, like 6 blocks, but I was like 8 or 9, something like that. And I would have to walk across North Avenue.
Like my brother, he's getting ready to go to middle school. So therefore he had to find a school to go to. So he's going to be on a bus and going distance. There's a lot of stuff that happens nowadays. So
Westside Elementary School's like a mile from here, and those students are going to come here or they're going to go to another school, and the path that the kids will have to travel to get there is not a path that I would ever send my future children.
You being told to change, like where you go to school, where you live so often, and not knowing who's telling you or why they're telling you to do it. Not knowing why that's changing so often is really discomforting, to kind of know you don't have that control over your life, and then not being able to point to who has that control.
I think they just gonna look at it, no more Lake Clifton, no more 425, because it's a lot of people, parents that went here. And I think there are a lot of memories, and they're gonna be gone.
everything in this area just happens. They start building stuff, they start knocking stuff down. They don't tell nobody. It just, you see people come, stuff change, and that's the end of it.
If there is a sense of community in the neighborhood, then the school, that will help uplift the school.
They're getting what they have taken away when they don't really have much, instead of being invested in.
A lot of parents lost a lot of trust in Rayner Brown, the school itself. So they don't really care what's happening now. Like the gentleman came out and said, in 2 years the school is closing. So a lot of them, I think, walked away with the attitude like it was closing tomorrow.
The system isn't necessarily thinking about the school's needs or investing in those needs, and then those schools being labeled as underutilized because they're not getting the grades they're supposed to get.
So public education has to be viewed as a vehicle for democratic participation.
If you're looking at a school in terms of just classrooms to hold city student enrollment, then yeah, there's excess space. But if you think about space more flexibly, if the state had, you know, that value, there could be businesses located in a school, which could also be connected to the academic program.
Schools that have recreation centers or ties to a close recreation center tend to do well.
Public universities should be stepping up and thinking about, what if we set up a small community college in that wing of that school? What if we set a job training program up in a wing? What if we set a daycare center up in another wing?
A lot of different things can be in a school building, but that's not what the state's vision was.
Community control is important because public institutions belong to their local communities. So community control becomes, in some ways, a simple enactment of restoring dignity, accountability, and democracy to the public education enterprise.
So we did 16 meetings around the city over the course of the summer where we went through every school's individual profile.
They really reached out to the parents in the school. So like anybody who didn't have a student at school don't even know that Raina's going to close in 2 years. The community doesn't know anything about it.
But I don't think they really pay attention to what the children had to say, the kids, young adults had to say.
The demand for and the push for a buildings plan was initially coming from and driven by community-based organizations.
The plan was instituted through an incredibly complicated process and was then imposed on the people of Baltimore. And the way you know it's imposed on the people of Baltimore is that there are schools being closed and people in those schools who don't want them to be closed.
They had a meeting and they included a few parents on the rebuilding of addition to Fort Worthington, but they didn't ask us exactly how we felt about it before they made the plan. No. When we knew anything about it, the plan was already in effect, and this is what they was offering the neighborhood.
So the people that are having these conversations are the city, the state, the Maryland Stadium Authority, because they are like building the schools. And the people who people who have lived in the community their whole life, the people who live in the community now, the people who raise children in the community, the students that are gonna go to the schools in the community, those aren't the people at the table. And not only should those be the people at the table, but it should be their table. A change does need to happen. Something has to be done about this. Important thing is who is in control of the process to do something about it.